Grab your law books and practice your bird calls. We're taking a quick peek at Aviary Attorney. In order to really understand Aviary Attorney, you have to have some familiarity with the game that inspired it. Back in 2001, Capcom released the first game in the Ace Attorney series for Nintendo's Game Boy Advance handheld system. It was a bit of a novelty, not just because it had enough words to fill a novel, but with how it mixed ideas. As the name would suggest, in Ace Attorney you play as a defense attorney, tasked with keeping your client out of jail, but the game was more than just court cases. It mixed ideas from visual novels and hidden object games to introduce unique and memorable characters, as well as help players collect evidence before heading into trial. The game's main goal was not just to have a virtual representation of a legal system, but to give players a reason to care about the cases as well as their clients. For me, however, I never felt that the series went far enough with its ideas and mechanics. Enter Aviary Attorney, a game with similar mechanics, but with animal people. Well, mostly just people with animal heads. Sketchy Logic went for a very interesting decision with the game's art direction, and while it does help the game stand out, it also plays into the game's atmosphere and story. Back in the early 1800s, there was a popular French cartoonist by the name of J.J. Granville. He had made a name for himself through his unique art. Granville used his creations of highly detailed human figures with animal heads to represent political messages about the world around him. It's partially for this reason that Sketchy Logic borrowed his art style, and while I do like it, I find what they did a little bit lazy. Sketchy Logic states on their own website that the images in the game are just scanned-in images of Granville's artwork, at least for the game's characters. Sure, Sketchy Logic does animate the characters themselves, but animations are very limited and mostly reserved to just lip flaps as characters talk. This isn't the first time that people have specifically used Granville's art style, as there was a comic book series back in 2009 that had used it. The difference is that the comic created its own characters using Granville's style, which I feel is what Sketchy Logic really should have done here. I do have to say, though, it is kind of fun searching through Granville's images to see which characters were taken from which drawings. Aviary Attorney is much more than an anthropomorphic parody of Ace Attorney, however, as it expands on many of its mechanics, mainly that it lets you actually lose. Not the kind of lose where you have to start over from a checkpoint until you get everything correct in order to win a court case. No, Aviary Attorney lets you lose and keep playing. The story adapts itself around whatever outcome players get during trials. If a player messes around too much, the judge and their assistants might get annoyed and just end the trial then and there. The game is structured into three main sections. You've got conversations, investigations, and cross-examination. Conversations are told via text boxes, which do get a bit wordy at times, but they never get too bad. It's a shame that Sketchy Logic didn't attempt to add any kind of voice work into the game, as it can sometimes be difficult to tell where in the world each character is from unless they have an accent that is written into that character's dialogue. While the overall setting for the game is France, there are very few French words used, and for the most part, everything is written as if it took place in England or the United States. After all, J.J. Falcon, the game's main character, gives off more of a Sherlock Holmes vibe than one of Jules Maigret. Something I do appreciate from Sketchy Logic's writing is their sense of humor. Either JJ or his partner Sparrowson, who has the head of a sparrow if you were wondering, has something to say about just about everything, and their dialogue is littered with puns. Personally, I love puns, and I find a bad pun said with nothing but pure confidence to be quite hilarious, which is something that this game does multiple times. While conversations and puns aren't unique to Aviary Attorney, the way it handles an investigation generally is. For every case you have, you only get a couple of days to prepare for it. At the max, a week or so. Within that time, you have to talk to the right people and collect the correct evidence, or you may find yourself in court without the information you need to get the results you want. Important locations cost a day in travel time, so it's up to you as a player to use your time wisely. The game also can sometimes give you side quests, as well as having locations only appear after you learn about them in conversations. Sometimes events at one location will only happen if the requirements are meant from another location. It's very easy to miss something if you aren't paying attention, causing less than desired results. While I do like that the game puts all of this into the player's control, unlike Ace Attorney, which only lets players move on to trial after they found all of the evidence there is to find for that trial, if you find yourself in trial without a crucial piece of evidence in Aviary Attorney, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. As I said before, the story adapts around your actions, be it winning or losing your cases. There is, however, a third option. Just because you've won your case doesn't mean you've uncovered the truth, and uncovering the truth can be a bit unfair. There's one case in particular where getting the evidence you need to discover what really happened is down to pure guesswork. If you don't happen to guess correctly within the time you have before trial, then it's just too bad! Aviary Attorney seems to be built for multiple playthroughs, and does allow you to replay any day you've already played. This helps for something like the guesswork trial, but I feel it kinda goes against the story's branching paths, since you're never forced to stick with any of your decisions. Still, I really enjoyed my time with Aviary Attorney. It takes the Ace Attorney formula and goes much farther with it than Ace Attorney ever did, at least to my knowledge. I still feel that there's much more that can be done with this kind of game, and it's a shame that Aviary Attorney only has 4 main trials overall. 2 of those trials don't really give players much input, since one is mostly used as a tutorial and the other is used for plot. Then there's the case where finding the truth revolves entirely around guesswork, so out of the entire game, there's really only one trial that brings all of the mechanics together. Even if it's only one trial, it really shows how well the mix of conversation, investigation, and cross-examination work in the Ace Attorney format. Enough that Aviary Attorney stands out on its own as a great game. It's also $14.99 on Steam, and while it's true that it borrows artwork from Granville and even music from French composer Camille Saint-Saëns, it really feels that it's worth the price. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think about the game or this video in the comments section. I'm Mega Pieman. I'll talk to you guys later. A decent selection of maps to play on, with each map having their own unique game mode. That's the thing that I feel really helps the Mean Greens to stand out. Every map in the game has a unique setting and specifically designed around its game mode. The game has everything from your